I call the meeting to order for March 3rd, 2021 of the City of Apache Junction Parks and Recreation Commission. And it is 6:01, I believe. May we have roll call?
Yes. Vice Chairman Judy Borey.
Here.
Commissioner D. Kine.
Here.
Commissioner Luciano Buzin.
Present.
Commissioner Frank Schoenbeck.
Here.
Commissioner Heather Moeller.
Here.
Wayne Standage is excused, and Walker Waldy is not present. We have a quorum.
I call the meeting to order for March 3rd, 2021 of the City of Apache Junction Parks and Recreation Commission.
Okay. Pledge of Allegiance. Will everyone rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
May we have
The States of America and the Republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Has everyone received and reviewed the agenda for tonight's meeting?
Yes.
And can we have a motion to accept the agenda for March 3rd, 2021, regular meeting as presented?
I make a motion to accept the agenda for the, I forgot the date,
March
March 3rd.
March 2021.
And can we have a second to accept the agenda as presented?
I second to accept the agenda as presented.
And roll call vote for acceptance of the motion, please.
Commissioner Judy Borey.
Yes.
Vice Chairman, I'm sorry, Judy
That's
Borey.
okay.
Commissioner D. Kine.
Yes.
Commissioner Luciano Buzin.
Yes.
Commissioner Frank Schoenbeck.
Yes.
Commissioner Heather Moeller.
Yes.
Okay, it passes. It's approved.
Okay, and then acceptance of the minutes. Has everyone received and reviewed the minutes of January 6th, 2021?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, and can we have a motion to accept the minutes of January 6th, 2021 as presented?
I so move.
Okay.
And can we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. And the roll call vote for acceptance of the motion?
Heather Moeller.
Yes.
Judy Borey.
Yes.
Vice Chairman. Commissioner D. Kine.
Yes.
Commissioner Luciano Buzin.
Yes.
Commissioner Schoenbeck.
Yes.
Okay, it passes.
And that brings us down to our number 6 on the agenda, which is Parks and Rec Director's Report. Liz?
Thank you, Vice Chair Borey. All right, so I will start with our facilities update. I just have a few quick things to report because we'll talk more later on in our agenda items. I know everybody wanted just to keep posted on the Bureau of Land Management land sale. That is moving along its way, but we haven't heard any more news yet. They are still basically the same place they were when we talked last, 2 months ago. Working on the notice of realty action has gone out, and they are working on some of their different studies, and so they'll keep us up to date. As of this moment, we've only paid our first $20,000 for that, and so we'll have other expenses as that moves forward. Additionally, I shared a little bit about this last time, but wanted to report on a few things. We had been talking about our See Something, Say Something campaign out in our parks and our open space and trails. We've kind of been using that, Jamie's favorite word, slogo, for a while now, and reminding folks that as they see either transient activity or desert dumping or people with their dogs off of a leash or not picking up after their dogs, that they call our park rangers. And so we have beefed up our efforts to make sure that that number is readily available to everybody. So at every dog waste station, we have added a small sign that has our, it's important to clean up after your dog. Here's what the fine is if you don't. And by the way, if you see somebody not, here's the park ranger number so that they can come out as soon as possible. In addition, we have done the same out in our open space and our multi-use trail system. We have over 150 signs out on horse crossovers and along the gates explaining the rules of no dumping, no camping, no OHV use out in our open space. But we still have a lot of cleanup going on out there and a lot of little things. And one of the suggestions was to update our sign because nowhere does it say who to call if you have a question or a problem. We do not have the funds currently to buy 150 signs to replace, so we did decal stickers that go at the bottom of it, and it has the park ranger number and the police department number. The park ranger number that we are utilizing now goes directly to our park ranger cell phone, and so from 5:30 in the morning until after midnight when they're on, they will get that call personally. If they are busy and in an event or in the middle of some type of interaction, it will go to their voicemail and they'll check it and call it back immediately or go directly to the location that somebody reports. So we're just now rolling that out. We sent out a press release talking about our open space efforts. And one of the big things with that is that we are working on two semi-annual events. We'll be having one coming up April 10th where we're going to be doing a big desert cleanup and working with a lot of organizations in the community to help. We have been identifying some of our areas with the most trash and the most previous transient activity that we have moved on their way or they've been kicked out of the area, cleaning up those areas. So they've identified an area between Meridian and Ironwood, and north of Lost Dutchman Boulevard will be where we start for this April 10th event.
And Liz, is that on the website also? The numbers and everything are on?
Yeah, so our
city
numbers are on the website, but our new campaign is kind of going out. So Riley King is our management analyst. She'll be here to talk about fees today, but she also heads up our social media and all of our marketing. So we're just now rolling some of that out social media-wise. We do have a whole new website, and I'll talk a little bit more about that when we get into our programs. But we'll make sure that those kinds of things are readily available on the front page and that we can kind of access those. But we are working on that as we go. That event will be coming onto the website once we've finalized a few things, times, and some of our other organizations. It will be spread out and the ability for people to just kind of be on their own and be able to physically distance for that April 10th cleanup event. That concludes facilities, unless you have questions for me on any of those for now. And then I'll move on to programs update, if that's okay.
Okay.
Last night, and this is facility/program update. Last night, sorry, I just lost it. Mayor Wilson read a proclamation and passed a resolution indicating that 2021 will be Get Outdoors Arizona for the whole year in 2021. And so we'll be adding that kind of to some of our different things as people are out in the community or trying to encourage them to get outdoors and recreate. So you'll see a little bit more of that coming out. But mostly it's going to connect to a lot of the things that we're already doing. And so it's really just a campaign that the state of Arizona and the businesses in the outdoor recreation community, both nonprofit, state and federal organizations, and then the business communities that deal with outdoor recreation pursuits are encouraging Arizonans to get outside and just giving a lot of opportunities, sharing a lot of details about that. Some of the things that we're doing on the program end in recreation, we have a Tri-City Rec Connect program that's in your packet. Actually, I'm sorry. Let's go in order. We have coming up our Superstition Sleepover is one of our events that we are going to continue this year. It has a great opportunity for being physically distanced. The families can sign up, and we will have activities that will be able to keep them. While it will be a large group. We have lots of room out in the softball fields that we can space our our tents and all that out. Very excited to bring this back. It's a great opportunity for families, especially those that really don't have a lot of experience camping or aren't real comfortable yet with that. This is a wonderful first step for just going out, putting up the tent, having somebody help to get food and all the activities and all those kinds of things together. We'll be doing a lot of things that are really more family-oriented or spaced out. So, for example, bingo or the movie, is that right? The drive-in style types of things. And so we'll have some of those activities at our sleepover. The next thing that should be in your packet is the Rec Connect. It's a tri-city collaboration with Florence, Queen Creek, and Apache Junction. And our fitness and recreation team had been working on trying to think of a way to work together with and do a challenge with the 3 nearby communities and to encourage people to get active. All of these look like active outdoor stuff, and I think that's part of the challenge, but it can be any kind of activity. And so on that little flyer, there are actually QR codes that somebody could just hover their phone over with their camera open, or if they have a scanner on their phone, it'll take them right to the link on the website where they can log or get all of their information logged in so that they can track it. We really want people to do this, so really try to help encourage folks because we want to have the most active minutes out of the 3 cities. So we'll be promoting that quite a bit and sharing that at a lot of the different things that we do. The Prospector Park will be shamrocked on March 17th. Will be a date that there'll be over 100 painted rocks out throughout Prospector Park. Our staff are pairing up with AJ Rocks. I don't know if very many of you are familiar, but they have a big social media presence, and then they basically paint, their organization and their club paints rocks and puts them out throughout the community. There are Queen Creek Rocks groups and Chandler Rocks groups and all over the nation. There are rocks groups, and they do these and put them out in open outdoor spaces. And when folks see them, then they can either, share it on social media, or they can take it home. They can take it and take it to another park and leave it for somebody else to find. But it's been a thing that's been going on for many, many years. And we have an artist among us in our recreation department. Jamie Sullivan is an untapped talent. We didn't even know she had the artistic ability she does. She makes amazing rock art, and we've done a few different classes, but super popular. I was just on a camping trip a couple of weekends ago, and my friend, she brings out a big old box, and it was just paints and all kinds of stuff, so we could sit at tables and paint rocks the whole time. I never even really thought it was that big of a thing, but it's huge. So anyways, this will be a good thing, and we're encouraging. It's just another good way to get people out in the park and get them looking for something fun, and has a little more to do with St. Patrick's Day. And then last, similarly to our gnome hunt that we did during the Christmas time frame, there'll be a leprechaun hunt out at Silly Mountain Park. So again, just another great way to get people out in the parks and to know a little bit more about trails, to make it a little bit more exciting for youth as well as adults. So that will all, starting March 13th, folks can start looking for those. And I would really encourage that if you have, if you want to go out and do it, or if you have other friends or family that want to, I would definitely encourage going out at the beginning. I went maybe a week and a half later, and there were still quite a few left, but they tend to, at times, maybe they get eaten by wildlife, I don't know, or taken. There's usually quite a few left, but that's a really fun activity. So those are some of the things that we're really doing to try to get people outdoors, especially right now while it's nice and cool, and still during this kind of COVID timeframe, finding creative ways for people to get out and about. We will also have over spring break, we're bringing back a bunch of our small group classes. We've been sharing with you that we have expanded to all of our small group stuff in physically distant spaces with masks and all of that, so that people can get out and recreate and interact with each other. They've been very, very successful. We've got sports clinics and various different special interest classes. We will be doing our open gym is going to be a virtual open gym so that people can sign up and check out some different activities to do at home. But there will also be lots of things that they could sign up for and be able to do at the Multi-Gen Center or at one of the parks. And then the last thing I wanted to report on our programs update is that our Multi-Generational Center facility manager, he has made some recommendations, Larry Binion, on things that we're ready to start opening up. So our numbers in Apache Junction have really been going down very steadily for the last month or so. We had a little uptick this week, but it's still nowhere near where it was at I think we're hovering in the, a little less than 100 to a little over 100 range for our entire area. And so we want to do some things gradually to be able to open up, not go crazy. It all has to be within the guidelines. We are still not all the way out of all the red items, so masks will still happen. We will be doing everything per the fitness center guidelines, but some of the things that we're looking at is opening the gym back up again for at least for some shoot around. So not for games yet, but for 2 or 3 people to be at a hoop. Some pickleball by reservation only. Let's see, not climbing wall. Climbing wall? Oh yes, climbing wall a little bit during spring break. We've learned a lot through some of our cleaning routine. The masks are very helpful. People are willing to do it. And so if they're still willing to do that, then we want to have an opportunity for them to be able to come and utilize the center. So very happy that they're working on that. Our biggest challenge really is staff, as far as having enough staff to be able to have all of the amenities open for such low numbers. We don't have, Kids Club won't be open yet. But that will be another one that once we get a couple more staff on, we'll be able to look at. The game room will be open with limited capacity, and so we're excited for that to happen. That will be happening the first week of spring break so that at least kids can kind of have a little bit more of a place to come and hang out. And then that wraps up. Unless you have some questions on programs, I'm happy to answer.
Oh, Liz?
Yes, Frank?
Would volunteers be able to free up the staff to do other things? I mean, are all the positions at the staff thing, all the things that the staff do require the training of staff level?
So the one thing that we're not able to open up does require a staff member, and I don't think that I think there are things that we could have volunteers do. Some of our cleaning, we really hadn't brought back our volunteers, but we absolutely can be looking at that. If folks are ready to get back out again, I'm sure that that's something that can be done. So yes, I think we could use some volunteers. But I would also encourage that if you guys know of any people interested in a part-time job or want to work either there or at our pool, we're in the middle of hiring right now and our numbers are really, really low. So that's going to be the deciding factor as we move forward in opening up things.
Okay.
Can they use, if they work for the park, like the Rangers, can they also work in the Multi-Gen Center? Can they do 2?
Yeah, so we already have recreation staff are actually working out helping park rangers in the park. So we don't have, park rangers wouldn't have any hours available to work in the Multi-Gen Center. They are strapped as it is to be out in the park, especially with some of our multi-use trail system stuff that's happening. We've got a lot of demands right now on our park rangers. So they could, but that probably won't be happening right at this moment. They don't have the free time. But like I said, we are, right now we are looking at recruiting new folks to be able to come out. Frank, I think that's a great idea for volunteers, and we can certainly look at that. We've kind of shied away from that a little bit as we, kind of navigated through COVID, but I think we know a lot more than we did before.
We're all making this up as we go along.
Absolutely. You do remind me, though, I do want to mention that our plan is to open up our pool this summer. So we are moving forward with lifeguards and swim lesson instructors. Our plan would be to be having our swimming lessons, all of our water classes, and then open swim in some capacity. It might be by reservation. Everything will be at a reduced capacity and per whatever CDC guidelines are in place. We had a good experience this summer with some of the things that we did. Some other pools tried things we didn't, so they might not have been able to do swim lessons, but they could do open swim. We did swim lessons. This summer, we're going to, as long as we have the staff, we are going to be trying to be opening up our normal activities. It will just be a little bit more reduced capacity. Anything else?
Questions, anybody?
Okay.
Calendars? Since you're not putting out the Citizen, are you doing monthly calendars?
So there will be, so without the Citizen. So right now. Can you just come up and tell them real quick? Sorry. That way it'll go on the video recording.
So currently, the Independent newspaper is printing every month a full page for us of our monthly activities. So they're listed for that coming month, or maybe something early starting the following month. For summer, we are still working with the possibility of being able to do a shortened version of our citizen brochure with the Independent. If we can't come to something and work something out with them, we will do something in-house. We did it a couple of years ago. We have the means to be able to do something again to get that information out.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks, Jamie. Okay.
Okay, old business and the Park and Rec fee study update.
Yes. So Jamie Sullivan and Riley King are here today. So Jamie Sullivan's our recreation superintendent, and Riley King, as I said, is our management analyst. This is a project that they kind of took on, and they have all the market studies. So I'm just going to turn it over to Jamie.
Good evening, Parks and Rec Commission.
Good
Hope
evening.
you guys are all doing well. I know that I've had the opportunity to meet most of you, but if I haven't, I'm Jamie. I'm the recreation superintendent, and I've worked for Parks and Recreation since I could drive my car. Actually, before, because I didn't get my driver's license until I was 18. So, we are going to.
I'm sorry, Jamie. Can everybody just check your mics that they're on, and then just make sure that it's fine with your mask on, but just try to talk into your mic as much as you can.
And it's Frank. Frank, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can, Jamie, thank you.
All right, perfect. So we, and when I say we, it's mostly Riley, and I will give her a formal introduction, have been working on fee study based on our market cities, but we do this about every 5 years. So the last time we had a fee that our fees were addressed were in the year 2015. And in 2018, there was discussion about commercial fees, which we didn't have then, and we still currently don't have. So we're going to talk about commercial fees tonight as well. In 2015, those fee increases were adopted by council, and that was the last time we saw any changes to our fees. So our market cities were probably not that long ago, it just feels that way, but they were established by our council members of other cities that were similar to us, similar in size, and we felt that they would be comparable. So they're not necessarily our neighboring cities, because Mesa is not a very comparable city for us to compare ourselves to. So these are those cities. And then before I pass this on, so Riley King is our management analyst. She's worked for us for several years. She's been in her position for a year. She works with all of our software. She is undertaking the whole new Munis and budget projects. She does special projects. She does ActiveNet, which is our registration software. She also does all of our social media and all the back-end stuff, just not all the fun, pretty stuff, the analytical stuff that nobody likes to do. So she's been working on comparing our current fees with those of those market cities. So we have numbers to share with you that are their numbers. We've averaged those numbers. We've hopefully made it simple because numbers never are. We also have to be able to reflect back on if we need to look at what our current fees are. We have that up as well, so we can kind of flip-flop back and forth. And this is Riley's first time presenting, so you guys go easy on her, okay? Yep, you're right.
Okay. Hi, my name is Riley King, as Jamie said, and I'm just going to go over some basic information with you. If you have any questions, please just stop me, and I will be happy to answer them. So our first One we're going to go over is our recreation center and aquatic center passes. And so how the tables work, I'm not going to read each number, but I'll just kind of tell you how the tables work. So for the recreation center, we have youth, adult, and family passes, and we have day, month, 6 month, and annual. And so I took what our prices are and then what the average was for our benchmark cities. And so that's what you'll see for each one of these passes. Same with our swim lesson or our aquatic fees. So the swim lessons, the benchmark average, and then the current price that it is right now. And when we look at this, we see that we are at or just below our benchmark averages, which is where we want to be for these ones.
Can I ask a question, Riley, on swim lessons? How many lessons is that?
So our swim lessons run for 2 weeks, 8 days, so Monday through Thursday, and they're 45-minute classes.
Okay.
30 minutes? 30 minutes.
And just as we'd like you to be thinking about, what are there things that we should be looking at? I know we are going to be looking at as we get your feedback. So today is really just a chance to share all of this information, to kind of get your initial thoughts about it. We will be bringing back any other new information you might request today. So for example, we know that we want to look at our pool is very costly. We only operate it 10 weeks out of the year. We've always wanted our fees to be very small so that any families can come. But right now, not a lot of people are coming, and it's not necessarily because of the fee, but we have to be able to recover certain costs. So is this an area that we should perhaps be looking at to increase any kinds of fees? What would it look like if we did? What are the drawbacks? What are the benefits of it? So I think just really looking to see what is everybody else in the market city, their average, and how far are we away from that? Up in the multi-gen center, again, it just kind of depends on what are some of the things that we want to accomplish. If we want more people to come, we might need our fee to go down a little bit. If we really need to recover more money, we might need that to go up a little bit. So I think there's a lot of different things. And so just as you look through it, maybe just if you have questions or any kind of concerns, certainly let us know, and we'll be bringing back more information the next time too.
Question?
Yes.
Has there been any thought of a fundraiser for that? To help make up the difference, since there is so little attendance, instead of having to raise the fees more, but make a pandemic fundraiser for the swimming pool.
Pandemic fundraiser.
Yeah, so we certainly can do events or fundraisers. Just the really biggest challenge is that also requires money. To be able to make money, we kind of have to put money out there. And our friends of AJ, they've generally been pretty good, Frank, about trying to do some of those occasionally, but it's just a lot of work for the volunteers. So I think if somebody wanted to have something like that, we would definitely be open. I would say our staff themselves, though, are pretty tapped at trying to just offer the programming. When we have done fundraisers, the problem is it just doesn't bring quite enough. So, we're spending $250,000 just on some major repairs each year at the pool. That's not including the everyday maintenance and water and all that. So again, looking at what would that look like for a fundraiser that would be significant enough to bring in $20,000 or $50,000 or $100,000. The one thing I want to say, Frank, and that I don't think we address scholarships in here at all. As you think about these fees, I want you to keep in mind that we do have a very robust scholarship program. And so as we make fees more, that are more in line with the market, and they might increase for somebody who can afford it, those that can't afford it will still have many opportunities to be able to utilize the facility. So we have family passes, the youth pass, all of those are eligible for our scholarship, and then it's all done based on need. So if they have to have financial need, live in the area, and be under the age of 18. They have to be 17 or younger. So those are some other things as we think about fees. And as you look at this one, I will tell you from an operational standpoint at the pool, Making change for $1.50 and $2.50 is a nightmare. So we already get lots of change. You know, one of the things I'd say that I would recommend that we look at is how can we make that just be a nice round number that people can just bring dollars. 50 cents isn't a major increase, and we might want to look at, and then we're still below the average even at those rates. So those will be some things that we might look at.
I'm all in favor of that, not 50 cents. We ran into that at church too.
What about underwriting, having a company underwrite like the swim lessons or the swim teams or using company, to help pay for the maintenance of the program?
So if you guys know of a company that will do that, I would definitely let us know. We have a good corporate partnership program in the city. They are the ones that are able to give amounts of money that are in that realm are already giving to us. So Republic Services, SRP, Kroger, all of those major groups do give to us. And there's just not a lot of groups out there. And the amount of money that they're able to give is $1,000 here and $500 there and $5,000 there. So we are always looking at grants, but they're not necessarily the types of things that grants, so the grants can buy things like life jackets and equipment. It can do things to put in an amenity, but the maintenance of amenities is generally not very easy to find. And we'll talk a little bit about a grant later that's going to help us with some of that, but it's not ongoing operational stuff.
Okay.
And I was going to bring up too, I think we should incentivize buying a bigger pass. So when we look at raising prices, maybe raising up the day pass and the monthly pass, but trying to do like a semi-annual or an annual pass be more like, hey, we may have increased a daily or a monthly amount, but if you get the semi-annual pass or you get the yearly pass, that did not increase. So that might be a way to get families to think about buying a bigger package versus just doing a day here, a day there. And that might be something to consider as well.
Okay, we're gonna move on to the next one. So now we're gonna talk about our oh, sorry, Liz, I already clicked it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You're fine. We need to go backwards.
Who's in control of that?
We're going backwards. All right, now we're gonna look at our recreation and aquatic center facility rental fees. So this is when somebody comes in and rents the facility for a meeting, or they can rent the aquatic center for a birthday party. So when you look at these, it'll tell you what's being rented, the rental period, which most of these do have a 2-hour minimum. So when you're looking at the price, you do have to rent it for 2 hours. And then you have the average and the current price. As Liz mentioned, we are looking at the aquatic center rental prices. It is not covering the cost of our lifeguards. So we aren't making money off of any of these aquatic center rentals because minimum wage has gone up in the last 5 years, and our prices have not. We are going to need to look at if we can increase these prices to help cover the cost of our lifeguards.
It looks like we should. It's just going to be a little bit of a shock to the citizens, but I think publishing the benchmark average against our current price really tells the story.
Yeah, that's a good idea to share some of that.
That's dramatically different.
Don't forget though, all you're looking at right now is the benchmark average. We are not at all suggesting that we are going to go to the benchmark average. All we're saying is that our current price is too low and we're not making any money on it at all. So Frank, keep that in mind. And if you have some thoughts of, what people are willing to do. So just remember that in order to have this pool rental, we have to have X amount of lifeguards. So that's something way beyond what a regular reservation would have. That is a very high cost. So if somebody wants to do something like that, I think they go into it knowing it's going to be a little bit more hefty of a price.
Yeah, and I think that's a place where it really I see a good place to raise the price because that's more optional than going to the pool every day. You want to have a special event, you're going to have to pay for it. And we are way underpriced
Any more questions before we move on? Okay. So our next slide you're looking at is our program fees. So our program fees have ranges on them. It's not a set price because it is based on the length of the program, if it's a day, if it's a week-long program, a month-long program. So that's why you see these ranges on this slide and not just a set price for these. We are looking at, we're changing some of the ranges just to have a little bit more flexibility. Special events is one of them. We do need to raise the range for that so that we can have, when we have vendors come out to some of our events, we do charge them to be at that event. For-profit vendors, not nonprofits. And so we are thinking that we'll need to change that range on this one. Any questions on these ones? Okay. So our next one, so these are our park rental fees. So this is how much it is. So again, it's by facility, rental period, your benchmark average, and the current fee. And these are our prices to rent anything at one of the parks. These also do have 2-hour minimums on them. And you'll notice that our rodeo arena or our rodeo park doesn't have benchmark average. We did reach out to Prescott and Payson and Queen Creek. They just don't have a similar enough rodeo ground to compare our prices. But we do have that information if you wanted to know it.
In your sports courts, is that pickleball and
Volleyball.
volleyball?
Yeah,
Okay.
basketball.
Because that could probably come up because you have maybe 4 or 5 people or 6 people, rotating into those different sports.
Riley?
Yeah.
So now that you mentioned that there was no comparison exact type of thing, is that the same thing for special events? Because I noticed it was just left blank, it wasn't even an A.
Yeah, so special events, we didn't compare because we know most of our events are free. The only ones that normally have a price are Mud Run, because you get a t-shirt and you don't get a medal. You get a t-shirt with Mud Run. But most of our other special events, our big community events, they're free. And the special event range is, like I said, more for those vendor booths. So we can offer those or have the vendors pay to come out to the event and sell their stuff at it. What is not listed on here, let me try to get to it, is some of our special, what am I trying to
Equipment?
Equipment, yes,
Yeah.
thank you, Liz. So some of our equipment that we do rent out, the mobile stage is one that we may need to look at the price. If it's too high, if it's too low. We do have other data from other cities that we can look at to see how much they're charging. But this is one that we probably need to see about the price. So it is $500 for the day. It is $250 for the staff to come set it up and tear it down. And then there is the deposit of $500, but that is part of the fee. So it's not an extra $500.
Going back to your special events,
Yes.
because they're free, could you have something within that special event that, whether it's a competition or whatever, that you pay to be in that competition, whether it's $1 or, $5 as a family or. So.
You need to just come up to the thing. It's okay.
So we could, but usually that's where our nonprofits come in. So
Right.
think about the Halloween event. Those booths are all for the nonprofits to come in. When we do 4th of July, we partner with the school. They run the concessions. We also partner with the nonprofits, and they're running those booths.
Okay.
So it's an opportunity for them to bring in money for their agencies. Friends of AJ has actually, in the last couple of years, have run a couple of booths to bring that money back to their organization to funnel back into the special events. And so that's kind of like when we did the Halloween event, prior to COVID, we started with tickets and selling tickets, and that generated a little bit of extra revenue that went back to the nonprofits, but also some of it went back to Friends of AJ to put back into the event. So, and that's kind of, like she said, with the mud run, very few fit families, we've had to charge like $5 or $10 because they're getting a shirt, they're getting a full meal, and that range would allow us to do that in the future if we wanted to, though.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yep. Thank you.
Riley, can I just mention here too? So the mobile stage is one that, we would love your input on. Frank, I know you do a lot of, you did a lot of reservations and things at the church. I don't know if any of you have experience out in your other jobs. We set that fee, and it was per the market, but we set it at a rate that was high because we don't want just anybody using the mobile stage. It needs, we spent $150,000 on that amenity, and so we weren't crazy about people renting it out yet. We wanted to have the ability so that some of our events or some of our partners could rent it, that it would be available. We're going to talk about commercial fees tonight. Not very many nonprofits really could afford to spend that amount of money on the stage. And so we really get very few. I mean, maybe two in all the two different groups that have really rented it. So we might be pricing people out, but again, that's a conversation to have and to be kicking around. Do we care? Do we want people renting it out so we can bring in that money? Maybe.
Well, can we differentiate the fees between nonprofits and profits?
I didn't hear.
Can we differentiate a fee between nonprofits and profits?
So we do have, for the youth serving nonprofits, they do get, they pay 25% of the fee, but the mobile stage is one that we do not discount because of the, it takes how much time and setup it does take for our staff to go out and do it. So that is one, probably the only fee that they do not get.
I think Frank means, could we differentiate the fee for commercial?
Yes.
And we're going to be talking about that in a few minutes, Frank. So yes, we could.
Yeah.
And maybe this
Might
is the
encourage
fee
you.
for commercial use, and there's some lesser fee for nonprofits that we could kind of look at.
Yeah, and even consider a percentage of the gate. I don't know what.
Right.
Got to pay for the stage.
Right. Riley, do you happen to have with you the mobile stage comparisons?
I do.
I just think it would be good for you guys to hear what are some of the other cities that have comparable stages to us. And
And do you have to have a staff person on site with that stage?
yes, we do.
Okay, and that's another cost too.
Well, and I will say this, we've had events where we don't have somebody there the whole time. They might just check in with them especially if it's just setting it up and they're using their own sound system and all of that. But I think as we grow and we start to have more of them, there'd be an assigned staff that knows what to do and to be there on site.
Okay, so Buckeye, who they have a stage, but they actually don't rent it out anymore. They used to rent it out to the public. They've decided not to do that anymore. Mesa's is around $850 per day for setup and takedown, and then they do charge $33 an hour for staff for 4 hours to come out with it, and it requires 2 staff. So that's theirs. And then Maricopa, our other benchmark city, they charge $300 a day for setup and takedown and use of the stage, and that's the only fee that they charge with it.
Do you happen to know why Buckeye stopped? Like, was there damage, or
She told me when I asked her, she said, nobody rented it, so they just don't do it anymore. So.
And I will say, so ours, I do think that this fee is confusing anyways. I don't know, I don't remember our whole process at the time, but the mobile stage refundable security cleaning deposit, it sounds like they pay $500, and then they also pay $750 because there's a $500 per day and a $250 per event. The reason we did the $250 per event was because somebody might want it over the weekend. And so there's the $250 fee to get it set up and all of that. it might be better to word it that it's really $750. Each additional day is some less amount of money. Our fees include the personnel, but if you think about the Mesa one you just shared, they're not that far off from what they're charging. They have a bigger base of people, though, that might want to use it. So just some interesting things to kind of look at.
Well, what is our goal here to get it rented out?
Frank, I think that is a great question.
No.
I will tell you from my perspective, I think our goal in our department is to bring in more revenue. We need to be able to offset other things we do by bringing in revenues in other ways. Because right now we are limited to just our general fund and our user fees. A little bit of corporate partnership, a little bit of grant money, but it's not enough to make things go the whole way. Having said that, Frank, the stage is it requires staffing and it does require a lot of work. And so we also will never have another one for a really long time. And so is that the item that we want to really have out there every weekend? Probably not, but we probably would want to have it out a little bit more often.
Well, I'm thinking if we charge like $500 for the first day, I mean, set up, tear down is standard if it's there for a week or a month or a day. And maybe we do $500 for the first day, $400 for the second, $300 for the third, even with our, and then still have our setup and takedown fee and our deposit for cleanup.
Right. We'll write all that down because I think those will be some good suggestions for us to look at.
You know, just the longer you keep it, we give you a price break.
Right.
So setup and tear down is the same. Just one more option to entice some use. And generally, if they're going to use it for longer, they'll probably be a little more responsive. You would hope.
Right.
Well, I feel like if we paid for it, we might as well get money back for it.
That's true too.
So just
Yeah.
making it maybe a little bit more approachable, I think he's onto something where if you rent it for a period of time, it could be cheaper than if you're renting it for an hour or two. If someone wants to rent it for like a weekend event, then we can look at a pricing point for that as well.
And is there security on that too, or security?
So
Like if they have it for 3 days, then you would need some kind of security,
they have to pay everything
Patrolling
up
it.
front. Oh, I
Oh.
see what you're saying. Security of their
security
event. Yes. So we'd have
personnel.
those conversations. If it was in one of our facilities and it was locked, then that would probably be fine.
But if it's
So
out
at
with the-
Flatiron, for example,
Yep.
for FOTS, they will have security overnight. So mounted rangers would stay and kind of be there for that. So yes, I think those would be conversations we'd have with individuals to make sure it's secure.
Is it right now rentable for non-facilities? Is that like, so they could just do it at whatever their event, like a church event or a school event or something?
Yes, as long as it's in the city limits.
Okay.
And they have insurance.
Right. And so then their insurance does cover, so if there is damage, they are listing the city as additionally insured, and they would have to pay for those damages. So, I mean, there are some protections, so we're not like totally at risk in this whole situation. Riley, can you go back to the, is that where we're at? Yes, the park rental fees. So I think if just kind of looking at those as well, and, I know we'll have some recommendations. We just kind of want to hear your thoughts. And again, I don't know that if you have experience in it or you hear that if you've heard that there's anything that is challenging. We were asked by council, do we have any that people really complain about? And we really don't think we do. In fact, most of the time, people start with, can you donate to our nonprofit to have this? And it's like, well, we really can't do that. We don't have that ability. These are technically our nonprofit / resident fees. We only offer it to nonprofits and residents. So you're already getting that rate. We compared all of this benchmark data is comparable that you're seeing right now to every other city's nonprofit and their resident rate. So then when we tell them what it really costs, they are amazed. It's like, oh, it's only, $10 an hour? Yeah, that's not a big deal. So.
Right. Good.
Frank, do you have any other thoughts on this, again, just from your rental experience at the church?
No, and that's been, really kind of limited as far as what I rented out as
Mm-hmm.
stuff. I just have a view on the stage, which was really different. We have that little portable stage. I think it's 12 by 16. Molly B used to pay $600 a visit for that stage.
Oh, wow.
But that was like right there in the gym and very easy to set up, not really comparable to what we have.
Okay.
So I think the idea of a sliding scale, the longer you keep it, might be a way to maybe market it.
Okay.
Okay. So this is just to show you the cities that are benchmark cities, if they have a resident or non-resident rate. So out of all of them, there's only 3 other cities that do not charge the resident resident rate. And so this is something that we can look into. I do have all of the data for the cities that have resident rate and non-resident rate, how much the price difference is. If you're interested in it, I can bring it back because I have all of those numbers for you. But we just wanted to show you that out of all of the cities, these are the ones that do have resident, non-resident, and that do not.
One of the things that we really want you to be thinking about for the next meeting is, so again, it's a philosophical decision. There's a lot of reasons so lots of cities went to resident rates long ago, and we chose not to several different times. The last time we did this and the time before. So for 10 years, we've chosen not to. And the main reason was that many of our programs would not go if it weren't for non-residents. So Gold Canyon would be considered a non-resident. Anybody in the unincorporated Apache Junction would be considered a non-resident. Many of them in those areas do pay sales tax and all that. We don't have a property tax, so there's really no reason to differentiate those people too much. And back then, that was really what our biggest challenge was with residents and non-residents. And it's not a challenge, that was our difference. But over the last 5 or 6 years, with Santan Valley growing so much, they don't have a Parks and Rec department. Queen Creek does not have a pool. Queen Creek does not have a multi-generational center. And so a lot of those residents are coming out and doing our swimming lessons and all of those things. We do have a policy, and so to answer that, we had a policy where we could have the ability to have priority registration and reservation with facility rentals on certain things. That was the way to kind of answer that. So that way, at least residents would get first selection, and then everybody else could be signed up after that. And so that's what we've done in the past. We like that. It's very simple. It's very, we don't have to worry about our classes or our programs not going. But I'll tell you from the other side of that, we are also not bringing in the money that we need to be bringing in. Mm-hmm. And so again, we don't want that to fall on the backs of our residents necessarily. They are paying the majority of taxes in our community. Who should non-residents be able to take advantage of everything that those that are paying the tax money in that community are doing. I will tell you at times those individuals are way more demanding than our own residents. Mm-hmm. So out at pickleball, in our swimming lessons, they're not necessarily don't understand our community, or they don't understand how different things operate. So they tend to also take a lot of other resources and a lot of other time. And so that's something that I'd like for you guys to give some thought to. And you are welcome to take any of this and, kick it around with family or friends, or, what are their thoughts? What are their feelings? And those are the things that we'll bring back to the next meeting.
All right.
I think it would be really nice for the recovery. That would add to our ability to, be more likely to raise fees for non-residents, because more residents will be participating.
Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, Frank, so did you kind of say that it would be good to have?
Well, I'm saying if the economic recovery comes on, hopefully continues to get strong, we'll have more of our residents attending, and we won't be so dependent on non-residents to fill up our classes. and we can feel more comfortable leaning on them for some more money.
Okay, got it.
We can review this more often than once every 5 years, right?
That is true.
Because I think we have to consider the economy in this.
Right.
Okay, so this slide is going to talk about our commercial fee research. So this is just going to tell you who has commercial fees, who doesn't have commercial fees, and then I did add in there about what they appear to be. So like Avondale, they're anywhere between 50 to 100% higher for a commercial business to rent their facilities. And then as you see, there's only 2 cities that don't have a for-profit or commercial rate between the other ones.
How much demand do we have from the commercial sector?
How much demand do we have from?
We actually have a lot of demand. A lot of people call to reserve. They want to have a class at the Multi-Gen Center, promoting what they're selling. Even when we get commercial rates with the BLM land, it's a little tricky, but softball tournaments. We have rodeo, people want to do stuff at the rodeo grounds. Once we own the rodeo grounds, we can do more, but we do have a lot of people asking for commercial use at all of our facilities.
All of the softball tournament, all the softball and baseball tournaments that are, ours would probably be more softball because our fields are more conducive. But there's so many club sports teams now that are looking for venues, or even adult sports venues, and many of them are for-profits, and we're turning them away right now. I definitely don't want to reserve it to them at the rate, the rate we're giving. That's a steal, and that's the reason why they're coming out and asking us, is because it's such a great rate. But if we were able to make more money on it, those would be things that would be a good thing, a good way to bring in some additional revenues.
Oh yeah, I think this is a great opportunity. I think we ought to definitely look real hard at, everybody. There's some people charging twice as much, so.
Right.
So this slide is, we just took our most often common used facilities that get rented, and I did a 20% increase and a 50% increase just to show you what the prices would be if we did have commercial fees, if we did a 20% increase, what they would pay, or if we did a 50% increase, what they would pay. And that is just an example for you guys, so you could kind of get an idea of what the fee would look like.
In pickleball, would that be, that should be, I think, on that list too, because maybe a commercial,
So I think we would probably do I'm not going to say we're going to do across the board, but there would probably be something that was across the board, and so that all rentals have the 20% or the 50%, whatever it is. So it would be everything. One of the reasons why it's tough to give you an exact, they're always 50% more, they're always whatever, is because some of them have picked things that might be more, that they could, that are more desirable, that they want to maybe make sure brings in a little bit more money. For example, a baseball or softball field might be a lot more for a commercial entity to rent it than just a Ramada, because what are they really doing at a Ramada that's going to bring in a lot of, they're not making a ton of money. Some places might, I think, Frank, you mentioned a percentage of the gate fee, and that's not what we're looking at here, but they look at it that way, of how do they recover some of that money that people are making on public property that is funded by taxpayers. And so we don't want people coming and taking advantage of our publicly funded facilities. We want to, obviously get a cut of that and be able to help to go back into those facilities' operational costs.
Well, that was kind of parallel to our experience with Molly B at the church. We were obviously a nonprofit too, and yet she was making a profit, so we needed to get a good fee out of her. But we did it on a set fee without a percentage, and she was actually generous anyhow. But that was my one experience in this kind of thing.
Very good, yes. And I think if those of you that were on the commission in 2018 when we looked at these, we had at the time recommended a 20% across the board on commercial stuff. Like I said, we don't have to do that. And those are things that, again, we would really love for you just to take back, give it a little bit of thought, and those will be some good things that we can bring back to the April meeting.
When will these prices go into effect? Like once we've all decided in city council and everything?
We were thinking late fall time frame. So we get past the pool season,
So it'll be
September
Yeah.
is when we were thinking.
So next fiscal year?
Yes.
then. So it'd be in the next fiscal year?
Yeah.
And I have been really bad following when different housing developments are supposed to actually come into effect. I've seen buildings going on, but I imagine that's, like, you probably have like a calendar of countdown of, so that would take an effect too, right? Like you were thinking of, because our population is going to grow.
So for sure, we have a lot of growth happening in the city limits. And so there is definitely a lot of growth and a lot of people coming, which will help with the sales tax and all those kinds of things. Is that what you mean?
Yes and no. Like, are any of them supposed to be completed this year? So it would take
Yep,
effect,
yep.
like, technically it would affect us this year if we had the family homes up. Okay.
Yeah, so I think it would. I would say, though, that we have capacity. So unfortunately, there's a lot of places around us, and there's so much competition for people's recreational time. Our pool has plenty of capacity. We are not at a, full kind of thing. And so I think we welcome for sure those families. And yes, there will be some that'll be ready within this next, 6 months to a year that'll be online, that, those will be residents that we can tap into that'll be participating. We definitely don't want to increase or change the fees at the pool in the middle of the summer.
Oh,
And no matter what, there is a time frame that the fees can't go into effect until a certain amount of days after they're adopted by council. So we are really just kind of pushing off what that date that they'd go into effect will be in September, whenever it is convenient.
All right, that's all I have. I'm going to turn it back over to Jamie.
Very good, Riley. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, well done, Riley.
So like Liz said, we were really we presented at work session, and we had very few questions from council. A lot of it was clarification. I did not get a strong feeling either way of if they had strong thoughts or something. And so presenting the information to you, we want you guys to think about, what does this mean for how you use Parks and Recreation? How do your neighbors use? What do you hear? What do you hear people complaining about? Maybe they're not complaining at all, and that also tells us something. We have learned in COVID, people have found our parks, they have gotten outside. Our facility reservations have done well, people wanting to have that space, and they are shocked when they learn, that's a great fee, it's comparable, and we don't get a lot of people complaining that it is, too high. Commercial fees, like we said, we've had this conversation in 2018. The idea of people being able to come in and do events that might cater to niche markets is appealing, to think that we might be able to, finally have people be able to come in. The wellness event, we try to have opportunities for our local businesses to be able to, shine and get the word out and whatnot, but it's also limited if they can't rent a park and do their own event. So some of those things would open up doors. I'm not trying to persuade you one way or the other. I'm just letting you know the different opportunities that the decisions will help impact. Like they mentioned, Prospector Park still cannot have commercial use out there. That also includes the rodeo grounds. But now we have many other facilities. Flatiron is beautiful. A lot of usage is happening there, a lot of our own special events. In event season, in a non-COVID world, we use our stage almost, it seems like every weekend our staff are competing for it sometimes. But we do want to make that, possibilities for people who can also use it and, have concerts where we are not the all and the end all for having to produce all of that. So we hope that we gave you the information in a way that you can look at it, you can process it. Looking at what our current rates are, I think for us, our biggest looks are going to be the pool fees for those, more so for the private reservations. Our day users, because that is a minimal way to start bringing in a little bit more revenue. And then those commercial fees, like I mentioned. So our next steps is to take your feedback along with the council feedback, draft something up as a consideration for you guys to bring back to you in April to review it. Once we have what we feel is something to present to council based on your guys' recommendations, we'll be taking it to them for adoption. Then, like they mentioned, through the process and waiting for the resolutions, or not, the resolution isn't the right word, but yes?
Yeah, there will be a resolution to adopt the blah, blah, blah.
And then if it's 60 days or 90 days, looking at that fall timeframe to be able to begin implementation of any of the new changes. So with that, questions?
And so you'll have heard this, so now you've kind of gotten 2 meetings with this so that you'll have a good amount of information. Like Jamie said, they'll bring some ideas based on some of the conversation today. But if you think of things, the next meeting will really be the time to share it and to really say if you have some strong feelings about certain things or have questions. Because then we'll need to, at that point, start fine-tuning what it is that we want, that you guys want to have in your final recommendation. So it probably won't be until the May meeting that we'd have something to vote on, that you're going to vote, yes, we're going to forward this on to council. So just kind of keep that in mind.
And if you
Anybody
don't
else?
have, our fees are also online. So if you want to check out our new amazing website and you go to the facility section, all of that information is there too. So
Any other questions for Jamie or
Riley?
Riley?
Oh, well done. Thank you very much for a good report.
Yep.
Thank you,
Thank
Frank.
you. And we're on to the dog park, is that right, Liz?
Yes, and I only have a couple of quick minutes on this, and I'm happy to answer any of your questions. We've been talking about this forever. We signed our county IGA, our IGA, our intergovernmental agreement with Pinal County for the land and all of the things that we're going to share in this endeavor. They will continue to pay for any of the minor electrical that we're going to have for our water fountain cooler and the irrigation controller. We're paying for water and obviously all the other operations of this facility. We will share the parking lot, and they are very comfortable with, kind of our plan here moving forward. They adopted it unanimously at their county board meeting as well. So what that does is now we are finishing up bid documents. We hope to go out for bid at the end of this month if all goes well, which might mean early April. But that's the timeline. And then hopefully we'd be opening up bids in May sometime and have a contractor selected by the council. That goes to council. Contracts for contractors will go to them. We are going to hope that we get some great bids, and then we will keep moving forward. So don't know if any of you have any questions one more thing I wanted to report. We did have our first meeting with our citizen group. We offered 2 different meetings that they could attend via Zoom in case one was more at the end of the workday, but during the day. And one was on it was in the early evening. One was in the morning on a Friday. And we got quite a few people, but not many of our dog advocates that were very interested before. They just want to know it's coming, and they really that was it. It was like, yeah, keep us posted when it's opening. But so we had about 10 people that did weigh in on rules and some different things with our park rangers. So we'll be sharing that at some point as well here as we move along. I just want to and so we'll continue to meet with that group, and we'll report back what that group is sharing. We did discuss when our next meeting will be. We haven't finalized it yet, but we will have another meeting at the end of March. And we will be putting that out in the paper and trying to advertise it. If anybody else is interested in just learning more about the dog park, that we encourage them to get involved. Any questions on the dog park? Okay.
And that brings us to new business.
Okay. So we had an opportunity we've been working with the Arizona State Parks. They are the administrators of several different state and federal level grants that are out there. The Land and Water Conservation Fund is has not been funded at the federal level for many, 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 many years. And last year was the first year that it actually got funded, and that money was allocated to the states to have available for cities and towns and other nonprofits and schools to be able to apply for. It is a 50-50 matching grant, so they will match whatever you're doing at 50%. All of the things that you do have got to basically help or assist with outdoor recreation opportunities. And this one it has no max that you can ask for, and they do have a really hefty fund for this. The state parks grant administrator came out and visited the site that we were proposing as a potential idea. We are looking at Superstition Shadows Park for this grant. The main reason being that this is one facility that we've taken back over from the school district. This is our park that we used to have. There are some major renovations that need to happen here. So the tennis courts currently, this was a great park, but at the time that we put in these tennis courts, I think we just didn't go to that level of post-tension concrete, all of those different things. The concrete is crumbling. The posts are not able to, we have one court where there's no posts at all right now. We're using a portable net. It's utilized by the school district for their high school team, and it's heavily used by the public for both pickleball and tennis. And if it were a nicer facility, we could definitely fit more people on it, more people would use it, and it'd be a great amenity for the park. So that's one area. We know that that's going to cost in the $500,000 ballpark to completely resurface the tennis courts and put the type of concrete that's going to last 20, 30, 40 years. So that's a big ticket item. And then the other thing that we were immediately trying to look for was fitness equipment on this. If you kind of look, I know it cuts off here, but the little path around the open space here, we wanted to do some circuit fitness training. That is a major request from a lot of residents that do come and walk this park. This budget year, we're actually putting in a replacement piece for our playground. We'll show you what that looks like at the next meeting. So that's already getting done. But if you've also been following anything on Facebook, our restroom at the skate park has been under lots of scrutiny. We've had lots of damage done by some of the park users. And it's a super old building. The roof is really bad. It's just not, it's an old, it's been there since the beginning. And so as part of the grant, what we wanted to do was replace that restroom with so they are models that are actually already created in modular buildings, but they're concrete. And they will come, they crane them in, and they drop them right over the existing surface. It's much more cost effective than completely building a whole new building. Some Flatiron was, I think, $250,000. So what we could do with this other money is in the $80,000 to $100,000 ballpark and still have restrooms as well as an office space for the South Parks maintenance team that is down here right now, basically working out of a storage shed and a roll-up garage and the pool concession stand as their base. Those were the three things that we proposed right off at the beginning. And while the grants administrator was on site, he identified a lot of other things that we are already planning on budgeting to do that we could roll into this grant and we can use that money as part of our match. And so he just gave us a lot of really great ideas. We are all ready. It's this parking lot here. It's this parking lot's turn to get crack sealed and slurry. We are working on retrofitting all of our lighting at the tennis courts and the skate park to all LED for more high energy efficient lighting. And then we have some ADA walkways that they are on our transition plan that are the next thing anytime we did a major renovation that we need to improve for ADA access. So all of those things he indicated are eligible for the grant. And so we've talked with our city management and looked to see if we could find the match money. That all rolls into about $800,000, $900,000, just kind of depending what that looks like. But we would have to do the match on that. And it is a project that you could do over several years. So we could, we get about $250,000 worth of big improvement items each year. And then try to pick and choose the things that need it the most. So that fits in line with what we would already kind of be putting in, and being able to get the other half of that money free from this grant would be huge. The grants administrator really felt confident about our grant, and they basically pre-approve you to apply, and then you apply and you go through the process from that. So that's the first one. Do you have any questions?
On that building, the one where the restrooms or you said the maintenance shed kind of thing?
Yes.
Would that also include a ranger area too?
Well-
Or not? Or would it all be maintenance?
Yeah, so the Rangers already have a spot down here, and then we have cameras at all of these facilities that they can operate through their vehicle. They can actually, when they are all back working and in the right places, they can access those from various locations. So they don't really need a place to hang out, although it's a great idea to put that kind of stuff in there. That way they have a little bit of presence at the skate park.
Yes, that's what I was thinking.
We don't have enough rangers, though, to put them at one location, to be able to stay. They really are coming through, checking on things, that kind of thing. So, but they would be able to fit, and we would definitely be able to have room for supplies and things like that down there. Whoops.
Okay.
So that's the Land Water Conservation Fund grant. You can only get one of those at a time, and until it's complete, you can't apply for any others. So that is a really good one that we're excited about. And when that money is gone, we don't know how long that funding will last. We're kind of in the beginning phases. A lot of cities, they're reaching out to cities to apply for this. They have so much money and not a lot of interest yet. So we are in a good place to really get going quickly, so that way we can kind of beat some of the other groups to this before they start asking for the money. The second grant that we are doing with Arizona State Parks is the Recreation Trails Program grant. And that one does have a max, but I don't know it off the top of my head, but for what we want to do, it would be very reasonable. That one has a match of only, it's like in the 6.7% range. So they will fund everything except for about 6.7% of the needed funds. So we are looking for that one at Silly Mountain. And just to kind of give you an overview, so here's the mountain on this topographical map. Here's the botanical walk in this little figure 8. And then, right off of the highway here is the parking lot that's there at the front of Silly Mountain. When we get into this, so here's that parking lot. The figure 8 is kind of starting right here, and it would go out into this direction, and then you would walk up here and be able to head out into the mountain range up here. What we are proposing is that this grant would provide a primitive restroom facility that would actually have 2 restrooms in it. Primitive means it's a vault system, so these are in most all of the state park trailheads. They don't have actual plumbing. They do have other mechanisms in them. Right now we have a porta-john, so this is definitely something that would be an update. It's something that's very common at the trailheads. Frank, I think you're going to love this one. I know you were happy with even when we got the porta-john, everybody was thrilled. I think this would be even another great step. We are proposing a small Ramada structure with, a couple little picnic tables under it. And then some Silly Mountain Road security fencing. So right now here along the road where the trailhead is, it's really just kind of like barbed wire type of fencing. It's just wire fencing. People could certainly go through it. There's a gate, but there's nothing preventing anybody from going in there. It's accessible from many ways, so it's not like we're ever going to completely secure this facility. But if at the parking lot we could make it so that it was a little harder for people to get in, we think that when there is a nicer restroom and a Ramada, there'd be a little less vandalism if we could have a little better fencing up here at the front. So that's why we put that in. The grant coordinator came out to this site as well and felt that these were all very reasonable things for the project. Frank, did you have a question?
Yeah, do we have any security cameras out there?
So there is not any electrical out here. We have put out game cameras, Frank. So anytime that we have something that when there's kind of a challenge or whatever, we try to put out, there's not even a pole here to put a security camera on right now. So we don't currently, but it's definitely a location that we can look at. There's plenty of portable cameras that are battery operated or solar that we can look into. And I think that that would be a great idea as we move forward. But currently there aren't.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So that would be a great thing. And we have time right now to add to this grant. So, I mean, I think that's a great idea, Frank. It's something that we can kind of look at to roll into this. We did just recently put in trail counters. So we budgeted this year to have a couple of trail counters that we would put, one at the Botanical Walk and then one at the main entrance. Mainly so we could see how many people were coming into the facility overall and then how many people were basically doing the Botanical Walk, and we'd kind of narrow that down. So those are in now, and they are in a protected case. They are on a little post, so we'll see how that goes.
Would that Ramada be also part of your fee structure, like to rent that Ramada out?
No, I don't feel like that would be one that would be rentable because it would be really small. So it's not something somebody could really have a birthday party at or anything like that. We could consider having events out here. There's a lot of open space down on this end that somebody could have a great event out there and bring out pop-ups or different things. I think our open space rental fee would cover that, and so that we could have that opportunity. It's a tough place to do rentals because it is very, very busy. Anytime that it's nice out, it's pretty much packed. So, but certainly has some potential there for some of that, Judy, especially with commercial entities that want to have that natural experience. If you guys were to weigh in on and this Ramada is going to be small, so I'm trying to think of what it'd be. It's not even as big as the ones at Prospector by the playground. So those ones can fit like 4 6-foot picnic tables in it. I'd say this one could probably fit 2 6-foot picnic tables in it. So here's where the main trailhead is, up here where my cursor is. Like I said, here's where the Botanical Walk opens up. There's some little artwork right here. Is it best to have the Ramada somewhere in here? We put the portage on right here by the road, but maybe it's best to have it farther in so it's a little less accessible. Would just love any of your feedback that you might have, anybody who uses trails and...
Well, I would think closer to the entrance is good, but maybe at the entrance where the junction goes to the Botanical Garden.
So maybe around here?
A natural spot for information.
Because I forget, is that facility gated?
Is it what?
Is it gated?
So it is, but you could get through it. It's not like it's real protected.
Okay.
So that's one idea. And we'll probably have Nick Blake just kind of sketch out on here, the size of what we're looking at and where it would be located.
I'd be curious as to his opinion on that too.
Yeah, absolutely. So I will put that down as one option.
Do you feel like has there been issues with like transients or anything out there? Okay.
You know, there really hasn't, but our rangers did mention that if we put a ramada with picnic tables out there, it would be a more desirable location. But truly, there's nothing attracting transients to this area. So, I mean, like, there's no, like, usually, you know, they really kind of try to concentrate where they can get other services, like the food, you know, the soup kitchen kind of thing that is downtown. We have a lot more folks out where there's washes and where they can kind of not be as visible, because they'd have to really go a far ways to find a place to camp or to stay. This is a very low brush area. There's not a lot of trees, and so I think it'd be kind of challenging. But our rangers did mention that, so we were kind of thinking about it a little. So basically tonight, we just wanted to share this with you and let you know that we will be there will be some different steps along the way that the council has to do a resolution. I don't think there's anything formally that we want to do, but I think if I can just kind of look to see that everybody feels like this is a valuable use of city resources, that we could kind of just know that there's support, I guess is what I'll say. We might need to have a letter from somebody from the commission or something like that as our support letters. Any concerns? All right.
I'd be glad to write any kind of letter you want.
Okay, cool.
It all makes sense. The one question I had is on the tennis courts.
Okay.
As long as we're out there working them, is there any thought of expanding it? As long as the equipment and materials will be on the way there?
So to expand it would be a little bit more of a challenge. Only not because we have plenty of room. But the quote that we got is actually we got a quote that was $1.5 million which is not a serious, I don't think that's really what it is. We're looking at about 5, so when we look at other comparable projects that State Parks has done, that we did at Prospector Park, we're really looking at $500,000 only if we save our fencing, if we use it exactly the way that it is. Frank, what we could do is we could paint our pickleball lines on either side so that you could have 2 pickleball courts instead of just 1 on each tennis court. So that's something that could expand the use for pickleball. For the tennis courts, to be honest, it's more than enough tennis courts. There's not a whole lot of, that doesn't get packed for that. I see pickleball much more often than I see tennis at that facility. And it is sufficient for the school.
Good that we have more pickleball per acre that way, or per square foot. So that's good. That's a good plan.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. I think that's it.
Great presentation. Really, you guys have done a wonderful job. And I guess we're down to call to the public.
Yes, there's none
And
here.
since we
You
don't
don't
have
have
any
to read the whole
public-
thing.
Okay.
Not
And
today.
any requests for future agenda items? Anybody have any agenda items you'd like to add for next meeting?
Vice Chair, we will for sure be bringing back the commercial fees.
Okay.
And unless we have real significant information, we'll probably roll like our BLM dog park into our facility report unless there's something really, meaningful to bring back on that.
Okay. And will you bring back something too on this state park grant?
We can definitely let you know where we're
Right.
at on that and what we submit. Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay, well, then I believe we will adjourn.
Okay, thank you.
And it is what?